So, is there any specific technologies which you see in the near future being phase changing or disruptive?
Disruptive. Look, the technologies that I do think we're going to have will be better and better medical technologies. Whether they'll extend life immensely, though, I don't know. Clearly, it's clear to me that if we extended life by, say, 1,000 years, we all lived to be 1,080 instead of living to be 80, say, as a reasonable life expectancy. That would be enormously disruptive. Or at least it would produce enormous change. Right, maybe it's change that we can accommodate, but it would produce enormous change. I don't think it will happen quite like that. But the life expectancy even now, is something like 80 in most advanced countries. It was vastly less even 100 years ago. So that has produced immense change. And we will continue to see, I think, quite significant changes in life expectancy, even if we can't get huge changes in the maximum lifespan.
But just healthy lifespan.
Yes. And that's very desirable. I mean, the maximum lifespan at the moment is about 120. And you know what it was 1,000 years ago? It was also probably about 120. We have not been able to push that up. We've not been able to push up, the real basics of what causes someone to die of, extreme old age if absolutely everything goes right for them. But we've got more and more people closer and closer to that. I think we'll probably be able to push that figure a bit higher for the first time. And I think we'll get a lot more people closer and closer to it. So the average life expectancy may go up to 90 or 100, even in our lifetimes. Even that is enough to cause considerable change in how society works. People are going to have to work to much later ages. An age like 70 will no longer be considered old. There'll be a lot less people who are in their teens and 20s and, little kids. The proportions will change radically. They've changed radically already, of course.
But that will be change. A lot more people having a healthy minds to work on academic things, like professors living for a lot more and having more time to discover stuff.
Sure, and already, a lot of people who retire from academia don't fully retire. They retain some kind of part-time position, or they come back to do some sessional teaching, or they maintain some kind of research professorship, or whatever it might be. Academia is a very desirable place to work, and if you can work in a way that's kind of taken you away from the mainstream undergraduate teaching to research, or be like a consultant or mentor type figure or some other role like that, that's very attractive, even beyond the age of 65 or whatever we now think of retirement age as being. I think that idea of retirement at 65 has just got to vanish. 70, I don't think of 70 as old anymore. I think it was rather young these days, even though it's still a fair way away from me, I hasten to say. But you see plenty of very active, healthy 70-year-olds. I don't think 70 will be considered old. I don't think at the moment we consider 45, say, to be very old at all, but we did 100 years ago.
Really? Yeah. So 100 years ago, being 45 means you would more commonly get a disease and be bedridden.
Yeah, sure. Now, you weren't ready necessarily to stop work, but when you finally did stop work at 65, you weren't expected to live much longer at all. Right? So not that many people actually got to 65, and if you did, and you retired, and you went on to pension, which was a fairly recent innovation in the late 19th century, there wasn't a huge public burden on the taxpayer because someone reaching 65 probably wasn't going to live much longer. Someone reaching 65 now has probably had a pretty good life to have got there. And they're now going to live, the life expectancy is, say, 80, but someone's actually got to 65 is probably going to live through to well into their 80s. So things really have changed already. And that's going to continue to happen. As we get better and better medicine of all kinds, all the fancy new computer-guided technologies. The results of stem cell research, when they finally do come through the pipeline, and of course that takes a long time, but it will happen, all of this is going to change our lives considerably. And then if Aubrey de Grey is correct, and we end up living to 1,000 or something, it's going to be much more deep still. But I don't really think that's going to happen, or if it does happen, I think it's going to take a long time, and I don't see in anything like your lifetime or mine that's going to be the sort of change.
Well, it's interesting. I read somewhere that in the future, because we're virtualizing things a lot, we'll then be able to virtualize, at least to a simple degree to start off with, the human body or certain parts of it.
And so we'll be living in Second Life or something.
Well, yeah, maybe that, but I'm thinking more along the lines as a test bed for treatment.
Oh, right.
Instead of using real human bodies. Virtualizing or maybe even growing parts of them in labs so that you'll be able to do tests without affecting like a real person's life, as long as you're not like growing a whole person from scratch.
Oh, look, I'm sure that's right, and I'm sure that some of that's already with us. I don't know the details, but I'm sure some of that's already with us.
Yeah. Well, another thing is our approach to antivirus on computers is very quick. As soon as there's a virus out there, there's a whole heap of companies working on it, and they come up with a solution, often in less than 24 hours.
Sure.
Now we're looking at the FDA in America.
Yep.
And if there's an issue, then it takes 7 years to do something.
Yeah. Well, the trouble is you've got to be able to test things. So
exactly.
That's one of the limits on technology.
At the moment.
Well, at the moment. Now imagine that you could get to the point where you have incredibly powerful computer models of how the human body works, which you could run much faster than real time.
Mm-hmm.
In principle, you could do those tests, and that in a much shorter time, and that barrier could break down. Now, I think we're a long way from being able to do the tests with such reliability.
Yeah.
Because the smallest
the standards of reliability might change if there's biowarfare. Well, there's biological weapons, and like viruses are being injected into populations, and there needs to be a cure fast.
Right. So in those circumstances, you might have to do something quicker and cheaper and dirtier, and therefore you might run simulations, even knowing that those simulations could be flawed. But feeling that there's a 90% chance, or whatever the chance might be, that you're getting results that will be applicable to the real world.
Yeah. And also the creation of the industry around that technology will help it to accelerate if that does become an issue.
Yeah. If that pressure came on, if we started seeing waves of new biological weapons being used, and there had to be some sort of response in very quick time, as is the case of computer viruses, there would be great pressure to develop that kind of technology. And we will have the hardware capacity to do it. I said earlier, let's assume we'll have infinite hardware capacity. And for realistic, practical purposes, that assumption is probably a good assumption. We'll probably have as much hardware capacity as we need, so that might be a barrier. I'm confident that the hardware capacity barrier, to the extent that there is one, will be vanishing over the next years and decades. But there's still other barriers to the software.